become who we want to be as individuals. And at the end of the day, that's going to help us be a successful offense.
Man-to-man, one-on-one coverage because the safety rolls to Jefferson's side.
Jordan Love hit me up the night of the draft, just congratulated me, let me know it's time to work. A.J. Dillon was open arms.
Von Rock caught a ball with his thighs. We didn't even talk about that.
It was more of with his ass.
If he throws a good ball, this is a running, catching touchdown untouched.
Like, KP does like these flips after every win, and I'm like just waiting for him to do his flip.
To know that we still love each other, that's what football brings us.
Across the safety's face.
So you can tune in anywhere that you guys follow us on social media. Welcome to the Practice Squad podcast. My name is Jon. I'm joined by my co-host Mark, and this is the NFC North episode. I'm rocking the CJ Gardner-Johnson jersey, nice and fresh. Mark's got the Lions pajamas on.
No dip.
Let's go. All right.
No dip.
So clearly you know who we're pulling for in this division, but we will do our best to be unbiased. I think, we're going to give each team kind of, a fair shake at it, because I think everybody's kind of just assuming this is the Lions division. And if you're a Lions fan, you know that you can't assume any such thing ever, no matter how good we are. It doesn't matter if we have KC's entire roster on our team. It's not going to work out that way, right? So, look, there's some threats, right? The Bears have a refurbished receiving core. The Vikings are running a relatively stable ship and address their main problem, which was defense. And there's a lot of question marks around Green Bay, but, it's not like all hopeless either. So, anyways, we have another NFC North connoisseur to bring on as well. Our buddy, previous guest, friend of the show, Joseph Engros, who's currently under tornado watch. So how's the weather over there, buddy?
What's up, boys? Roof's still on, so
Okay.
We're back so far.
So, you hearing like sirens and stuff like that yet? Or do they just like send that like on your phone like an Amber Alert nowadays?
Both. Sirens are on, and we got an Amber Alert probably like 10 minutes ago. So
Okay, cool.
Coming in.
I remember I lived in Midland, Michigan for a while, and it like flash flooded like 2 years ago, and like same thing. It's like there weren't even sirens. It's just like everything went to your iPhone. It's like, okay, it kind of makes it more eerie at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Also, I finished my Austin, Texas move. Right, I'm coming at you.
New backdrop. If you haven't noticed already, for those watching,
Yeah, I need to fix the lighting because all the windows are here, so I don't have like the natural light kind of like hitting my face. So I already bought the shit on Amazon. It just hasn't come in yet. So bear with me, everybody. I will say, just for anybody that's thinking about it, moving across the country in a U-Haul sucks a lot. Like it's
can't
not
imagine
fun.
that's very fun.
No, I got like no joke, like 10 hours of sleep over 3 days. I walked 41,000 steps on Friday lifting shit and drove damn near 24 hours straight to follow that up. So not fun, but we're all settled in. Everything's unpacked. We're good to go. All right. Are we ready to hop into some film, start talking about each team here?
I think we're ready. Or do you want to start with you want to end with our side stuff and get into the film first? I feel like we would save it for the end.
Yeah, we'll save. I mean, there's not a ton of crazy topics that we need to hit. Well, we got Hard Knocks, we got
Pat Fitzgerald and
Northwestern's coach, and some banter around the Lions too. So I think we'll just save it towards the end.
Cool.
Yes, sir. All right. So starting off here, we got the Bears, and
it's only right we start with Chicago as they're in tornado alert.
Yeah, of course. Chicago resident, yet Detroit Lions fan joining us. Now, I think Mark and I kind of had the same take on this. Justin Fields is often, I think, like it's often said that he's a bad quarterback. And you can kind of look at his completion percentage in reference to him being a bad quarterback. I think neither Mark nor I agree with that take. I think he's got a good eye for the game. He obviously is incredibly mobile, which makes any quarterback, an additional threat when they can use their legs. And the reason why his completion percentage sucked, which if I remember correctly, it was 56% last season, is because he was throwing to nobody. He had nobody to throw to, period.
Yeah. It's not the only reason.
Offensive line.
Yeah, it's not the only reason, but he didn't have much help. And he's one of those young players that has flashed signs of being amazing. And then there's been some really bad, right? But with any young quarterback, you're going to see a little bit of that. So I think that most people in Chicago think that this is a big year for him to turn it around. And I think most people that have been watching his film and kind of seeing how he's carried himself in the offseason, would say the same thing.
And they clearly have less excuses now, given the fact they invested in their O-line,
Invested in their defense,
and they got some new receivers that are probably going to help them out a lot. Joe, what's the talk of the town in Chicago? It's pretty, big optimism towards Fields, or is it kind of go both ways?
Yeah, a lot of people that I talk to and like some stuff you see around Fields, MVP, Fields is great. Like Mark was saying earlier, he just had nothing around him. But I mean, where I stand on Fields, I think Fields is a good player. I do think he will improve this year with better pieces around him. But at the same time, I think if you win 3 games as an NFL quarterback, I don't know if he's ever going to become that guy. He's a quarterback that you win with, not because of. He's almost in the Jared Goff category, in my opinion, where Jared Goff is a quarterback that you win with, but you don't win because of. And I think that was proven last year when you win 3 games, and he plays in every single one of those, except I believe week 18 he sat out, and they ended up with the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we can't forget.
They bamboozled that number 1 pick. They used that really well.
They did.
But they bet on Fields. They bet on Fields instead of going for Young or Stroud or one of these younger guys.
Which I'm in the field of, like I was saying, if you win 3 games, which I'm sure their GM did, but I'm in the army of they should have definitely looked at Bryce Young.
I think they did, but
because you could have at this point shipped Fields for a decent haul. I don't think it would have been the same haul as you got for moving back to number 9, but you also are restarting over, and you had Bryce Young. You'd get a haul for Fields, and you go from there.
Right. And I think people forget that they did have the number 1 pick overall because of the fact that Carolina traded for it. So this team has a lot of work to do. I will say, though, that to me, it's like Ryan Poles is taking a pretty similar approach to Brad Holmes as far as how he's building his team. And I think he's investing in their strengths, and it seems like he's drafted some decent players so far. So I'm curious to see how it pans out. Mark, you're obviously the film guy. What do you got for us to start here?
We got a lot of film today, and it's Justin Fields heavy to start off. So this is going to be slowed down, so I'll kind of just talk through it casually here. But if you just keep your eyes on Justin Fields and what he's looking at, and you can see that, like we did with Deshaun Watson in last week's episode, the flashes of greatness are there, right? And you'll see it on here. He goes through his progressions, and when he does, he throws an accurate football. And like John said, what he's able to do with his legs, which you'll see in a few clips in just a second, it opens up the passing game because now you have play action with not only your quarterback's threat to run, but your running game with your running back as well. What Chicago I anticipate them doing more of this year is, as you can see, they're rolling out Fields here, getting him outside of the pocket, usually makes it an easier read. Mooney's one of the more underrated receivers, by the way, in football. And I think now that he won't have to carry that load of just being the sole guy to throw to, they have DJ Moore now as well. He'll excel as that number 2 receiver. But watch how he moves here. Now, I think a big thing, yeah, of course. I think big here with this one, right, is as you see the maturity of sliding in the pocket instead of just scrambling. There's a little bit of pressure. And again, you want to talk about completion percentage, John? This is a perfectly thrown back shoulder ball that just for no reason at all is dropped.
Yeah, let me back that up a little bit so that everybody
so he slides there, right?
Yep.
Pressure's coming right there, and he doesn't feel the pressure at all. He just throws a perfectly thrown back shoulder. There's no way that safety can get to that ball. He's actually protecting the receiver there by throwing it outside so he won't get hit, and the guy just doesn't make the play. Here you're going to see Darnell Mooney and what he's able to do. He's one of the more explosive receivers in the division. He just hasn't had much chance to show what he can do. And then you can see the big catch ability. Watch this catch and watch this placement of the ball, right? Gives this guy a chance. Defender has his back to the quarterback. Throw it a little short. You get a PI, worst case scenario. One hand, maybe one of the best catches of the season, but it just goes unnoticed because it was kind of a meaningless moment. One-handed.
I mean, I think Mooney's got to be their number 2 receiver.
He might be their number 1 over DJ Moore, just depending on how they use them both. It's more of like a 1A, 1B. But Mooney, again, he was the only dude that they could throw the ball to last year. They had 4 tight ends were their next top targets. I mean, Claypool was a no-show. They dumped off a ton of passes to Montgomery, and but This is the threat. If you want to pause this, John, for a second. The running game, I know this is David Montgomery, but it doesn't matter who. John, we could have handed the ball here to you or Sven Gross and scored because of the threat of Justin Fields pulling this football, okay? Look at how big this hole is and watch how all three backside defenders on the left here freeze. So if you go back one more time.
They all just bite on it.
They freeze thinking that because Fields has the threat of pulling it. So that's why it's, especially down in the red zone, that's why it's so essential your quarterback can move and run, because you have to honor him as a run threat, which makes your running back's opportunity of scoring way better. So it doesn't matter who they have in the backfield. Losing Montgomery is big, and we'll show film of why that's big. But whoever they have back there is going to have a big season because of Fields' threat to pull it and go. So here, a little play action, right, which they'll do a ton of. You could see him go through the progression here. On time, tough throw, long throw, puts it where it needs to be. Right? And this is all from one game, but you can see it all kind of coming together for him. And when they do protect him, when he has time, when they utilize play action correctly, he's looks there on the progression, doesn't like it. Scans to his number 2 option, you'll see his eyes move, doesn't like it. Comes all the way to the other side of the field and makes this throw on time. Watch this. The second he looks to the other side of the field, no hesitation, rips it. No hesitation. Trusts what he sees, makes it happen, throws an accurate football here for a first down. That's the kind of stuff he can do.
Yeah, and again, it's like you mentioned, like maturity of like a lot of mobile quarterbacks, I think, that are in similar positions as Fields, you know, they will over rely on their legs. They won't have the patience to sit in the pocket, go through that progression and air something out. And that's exactly what he did there, which I think is very promising because, you know, you take a look at guys like, you know, Hurts or whatever, their ability to do that only complements their ability to use their legs. It doesn't take away from it. Right?
Exactly. If you go back to the beginning of this play, John, you'll see that they start with Mooney actually in the backfield. So if you go even a little bit further back, right here, right? So he's in the backfield. Now, why they do this is because they're hoping to get a matchup with like a linebacker or someone on him. You can see the Vikings are confused as hell, right? We talked about their defensive issues last year. It was a shit show, especially in the passing game.
No,
but
that's really
they motion this. The guy's late getting over there. They don't know what they're going to do. Are they switching this? Are they locking it? And you can see Mooney just runs like a quick little in and out route. And the corner doesn't know what the hell to do. He's hesitating. He doesn't know if he's taking the tight end. So Mooney ends up wide open. This is just a great play design. I anticipate them doing a lot of this next year with DJ Moore, with Mooney. And it just makes it so easy on the quarterback because pre-snap, he knows where he's going with the football because of this motion.
Just out of curiosity, how is a defense supposed to treat that if they realize that like a number 1 essentially receivers lined up at running back? Obviously, it's usually a linebacker keying that. How do they communicate to be like, hey, that's not a running back standing next to Fields?
Yeah, that's why teams do it. They toy with the personnel. If you're a Lions fan, anticipate them using Gibbs in that way. We've seen them use Amon-Ra in that way before. We've seen the Chiefs do it with Tyreek Hill. We've seen the Vikings do it with Justin Jefferson. Cooper Kupp's lined up in the backfield with the Rams. You put your best guy in the backfield, and basically what happens, John, is depending on what coverage is called, it's hard to change the entire coverage across the field, right? I mean, you might be able to say on one half of the field, hey, we're going to lock it here or switch it. But when something like that happens, you basically have to change your entire defensive call in 5 seconds, which is really hard. Or a linebacker is going to get matched up on someone that they have no business trying to guard.
Right.
So that's why teams do it. It's just they're trying to create those matchups that are favorable for the offense and for their best player. You can see here, the movement in the pocket, right? He doesn't freak out. He casually rolls out. He's buying himself time. And this is a well-thrown ball on the run, only where his guy can get it. Give him a chance. You know what I mean? Give him a chance. Right. Now, it was broken up, but those are the kinds of plays, right, that show up on the stat line as an incompletion that make you think, 56% is really, really bad.
Right.
Those are the kind of plays that's a 50-50 ball that should be caught, probably a little more than half the time. Right. And then obviously we've seen what he can do with his legs. We'll see a couple more clips. He's exciting when he gets in space. The next couple clips are obviously Lions fans will be pained to see this one. But again, you take away the running back's run game, he'll pull it and he'll make you pay. Now, there's not many quarterbacks that can pull it and score on this. Mahomes could pull this, Watson could pull this, Allen, Herbert, and they'll get you 10, 15. But there's only maybe 2 guys in the league that can do this, and it's Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields. I don't even think Jalen Hurts would have ran
Who's the
away
missed
from
tackle there?
Let's add Anthony Richardson to that list.
Oh,
Shut up,
hell
Joe.
no. We might bring Joe back on with Tyler Winnicky for that episode when we do that division.
Oh, God, get all the Colts denialists.
Oh
yeah,
my God,
that sounds great. Actually, I'm a big fan of that idea.
This next clip of Fields is even better. If you go back to the beginning of this one,
yep.
So you could show this camera angle first, and then the next camera angle is unbelievable. We'll just, if you're watching this, we'll just let you watch this, and I'll kind of break it down with the next angle of it. Just the instinct to pump fake there and freeze that linebacker, and then to be able to score after it. Again, you're looking at less than 4 guys in the NFL that can do this at the quarterback.
And again, I mean, you have a receiving core to complement that threat.
He was doing this. He was doing.
Did I might have lost. Oh, wait. Yeah, I might have lost the other angle, Mark.
That's fine. Yeah, but I mean, the pump fake is what made that play happen, right? And it's just. I don't know what you do as a linebacker because you have to respect the pump fake because he hadn't crossed the line of scrimmage yet.
Right.
But not only did they do better with offensive line, receivers, and then Justin Fields' progression, and we think that he'll be better. They got better at the linebacker position in a big way, getting 2 really solid guys that were really good for their teams the last couple of years. Edmonds being one of them. And in this clip, I remember seeing this live, and it was just like, it's one of those wow hit moments that you don't see too often in the NFL anymore without a penalty flag being thrown. But to be able to move like this.
Oh, man.
I mean, and the other angle does it even better justice of how he sees the threat, sees the ball, and gets there right when the ball gets
just
there.
Rocked his ass.
And just absolutely sends that guy to a different planet.
And like I said, during free agency, right, they definitely paid a lot for these 2 linebackers. But it has been a Bears staple for a very, very, very long time that they have just really good, really physical linebackers. That was always just kind of a part of the team's brand. I mean, whatever this account is.
Very athletic linebackers, too.
Having a menace at linebacker.
Yeah, very athletic linebackers. And there's a reason, right? They invested in it. This is TJ Edwards. Okay, there's a reason I selected this clip. It's going against the Packers, who they'll see twice a year in Chicago. And TJ Edwards putting one of the harder guys in the division to tackle AJ Dillon down. Guy's got legs like tree trunks, right? But this is pretty hard to do to a guy that big. Absolutely stalemate him for no gain.
Crazy part with that too is that Edwards doesn't even get that low in this particular hit, and he's still able to stop Dillon. And
look, John, if you go slow mo on this, watch how quickly he recognizes the run, and like this offensive lineman is supposed to get over top of Edwards. No chance.
Yeah,
no chance.
What's happening?
He recognizes it so quick, shoots the gap.
Yeah, see, if I'm a Bears fan though, I'm pleased with 2 good linebackers, but the fact that they didn't even try to address the defensive line is crazy to me.
Yeah, and honestly, like I have not that the Lions defensive line really needs addressing, but I felt a similar way about the Lions drafting, right? Where it's like, man, I think Jack Campbell is a dog, but I also think that there was a lot of good defensive line talent on that board. And it was interesting to see them go for that over potentially, getting another guy on the other side of Hutchinson because he was one of the most double teamed, defensive linemen in the league last year. Yeah. So
yeah, I'll say this too, John, the difference between TJ Edwards and Edmonds, which the Bears invested in, and drafting Jack Campbell, they're very different players. And it's going to be interesting to see if Jack Campbell can compare to them. I know that he tested pretty well and all his pre-draft stuff, but when you watch film with Jack Campbell, he doesn't move like those dudes. He just doesn't. He just doesn't. So it's going to be a test to see. He'll stop runs right at him, but when you get some outside run plays and you get passing game coming at him, I don't know. I have my worries.
He does not miss tackles. That is one of the big highlights of his college career is that he does not miss tackles. And the other part of it is that again, we're going to be running nickel a lot. The guys that we got in free agency suggest that we're going to be running nickel a lot. Aaron Glenn as a defensive coordinator suggests we're going to be running nickel a lot. So I'm not super worried about those outside plays because ideally you have a guy that's more of a corner profile that's kind of hitting those. All right. So this is you know, props to Bears last year, but this is a Lions play that we're looking at now, which is
this is one of the worries, right? This is a kind of a double whammy. This is a big loss for Chicago to lose a guy who I think is an underrated running back in the league. One of the hardest runners in the league, can catch the ball in the backfield, can block,
highest broken tackle rate in the league.
He's awesome in every way for the running back position, and they lost him. And not only did they lose him, they lost him to an in-division rival. So this is just kind of showing the good of what he is and why Chicago's going to miss it, but it's showing a little bit of a transition into what Detroit's getting. Just unbelievable jump
cut is
there.
Nuts there.
Yeah, it's the vision, right, to see it, and to see that safety is going to fly over the top of it. This is one of the better runs of the season last year. Breaks one tackle, breaks a tackle from one of the best corners in football, and just lowers his look. I mean, he's just tough to tackle. Like he's going to get you the hard yards. But he also has that breakaway playability. Like it's not like he's a slow power back. He can do it all.
Yeah, and he's more effective in the passing game than I think people give him credit for. He's objectively more effective in it than Jamal is or was, if we're talking about his time with the Lions.
He's a great counter to any kind of speed back that any team has, and the Bears did a good job.
We're going to get into that. So.
Yeah, the Bears did use their duo really well last year, and I do anticipate that Detroit does a great job with him and Gibbs.
Yeah, and he'll be good. I know a lot of people, or not a lot of people, some people were annoyed that we paid a running back with our current running back room, which was before the draft. But when you think about it, we're also paying him $6 million a year, and it's a $3 million contract or 3-year contract. This isn't 5 year for 80 or 100. Where Saquon's going to want 15 to 20. We're paying him.
You're getting
3 years.
Exactly. You're getting a back that I think, in terms of what Detroit needs, is going to get you almost as much as what a Saquon Barkley gives New York. Like, he's going to give us everything that we need, and we're paying him much less than any of those guys are going to ask. Right. And like John and I had an episode a few weeks back about the running back position and just the value decrease there. There's just not a need for it. Like you can't pay a running back that much in today's NFL. I mean, look at Ezekiel Elliott. It just doesn't work out. The longevity of their careers aren't there, and there's just not many guys worth it, really.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So this shows a little bit of like the passing game, man. This is a screen.
Let me back this up real quick.
Like Detroit will absolutely do stuff like this.
And one thing too, to say, like, Chicago's offensive line is not Detroit's offensive line, and he still was a very productive running back with them. I am so stoked to see what they can accomplish.
Little fantasy football preview, and we do have fantasy football episodes coming soon for those listening. But
in August,
David Montgomery might be a top 3 running back in fantasy football this year. And I know people will be like,
Jamal Williams. I mean,
I'm telling you right now, David Montgomery is going to get the carries.
What gets fantasy points?
Touchdowns and completions, and he'll get plenty of both.
Yep.
And Detroit's going to run the shit out of the ball.
Yes,
that's what they do.
Look at Fields there, kind of dodging that sack, and another little Fields nod. But dude, like the cuts, like he's big and he makes people look stupid in open field, but he'll run you over.
I mean, I'm so excited about this. And Joe, like you said, like I think the Lions fan base didn't react to this super kindly, and now it's just like, to me, it's like they made such intentional moves at that position where it's like, this is our strength. This is clearly our strength. Let's get guys that we know for sure can do the things that we want them to do. It was more so like them working with, what they had, right? I mean, Swift was not drafted by Brad Holmes. And now it's like, okay, they have 2 guys that they feel really confident about. This is another Montgomery play.
This is maybe one of the best runs of the season last year, John. You're going to want to have this in slow-mo, and might have a couple watches on this. They showed it a second ago, but we didn't really get to break it down. Breaks the tackle there, and then this cut is absolutely sick. Absolutely sick. And then he wasn't done, right? Fights for that extra, 8 to 10 yards every single time. I mean, that cut.
I'm just imagining this kind of play happening 6, 8, 10 yards downfield rather than at the line of scrimmage. I mean,
yeah, the reality is this first hurdle right here, that would never have to happen with Detroit's running game if it's anything like it was last year.
Yep. And I honestly think our offensive line got better, so I think it will. And we'll get into that. I think
they'll be more mature, and they'll be, The chemistry will be better because pretty much everyone's back.
Oh, we got Gibbs first, and I think
Duel solidifies himself best
Yeah.
right this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know
we have
Decker's getting
Sewell.
up there in age, but I think he's still got a few years left, and he was an absolute stud too. So I mean, probably one of the best tackle duos in the league, if we're being honest.
Hey, listen, if Montgomery is thunder and lightning, then Jahmyr Gibbs is tornado. No pun. For Stengros in Chicago.
I just got an Amber Alert about 2 minutes ago. If you saw my screen go black.
Yeah.
Well, let's just hope that you make it through this episode alive, and that we don't have a casualty on pod.
That'd be pretty rough. Oh no. There we go. Okay, why is this glitching up on me though?
Yeah, I mean, this draft pick was a shocker, and that's no doubt about it. But I mean, like you said, Mark, this is a tornado. And I was actually listening to Brad Holmes today. He went on Peter Schrager's podcast, and
I listened to that as well.
Hear him hammering down, like, we drafted a football player, we didn't draft a running back.
Yeah,
that's what you have to put it as. I mean, he will do everything that we ask of him on the offense. I think, especially with JMO out the first 6 weeks, I think he's going to line up in the slot, like outside sometimes.
I couldn't agree more.
He's going to be used like a Debo. I really do think that would be his,
or an Alvin Kamara.
Right.
And to think about too, just like the fact that Gibbs and Jameson Williams, once he's back, are both sub 4.4 speed, proven to be really solid players. I mean, I know that we only saw flashes of JMO last year, but I think just based off of the flashes we did see, I don't think it's likely that, he doesn't have any production this year or anything like that. So it's been a long wait to kind of see JMO on the field, but I think him and Gibbs together, and then having Amon-Ra, Montgomery, the offensive line that we have, it's going to be pretty disgusting.
And what you have to do, guys, is as you watch these clips, so we just showed you what Gibbs can do, right? His ability to hit a hole, turn it on. He's a home run hitter, can catch the ball in the backfield, but he'll gash you too, right? You got to imagine now these clips that will show you the Lions' run game. And the beauty of the Lions' run game is they have so many different ways to run the ball. It's not just a couple plays that they do a really good job on. They have so many different looks out of so many different formations and so many different personnels. Like, they're just really hard to prepare for. And they get you, and I'll tell you, Ben Johnson does probably the best job of anyone besides maybe Shanahan in the league of getting his team in a good running the ball situation. You'll see you're on this first play. You got to pretend it's Montgomery and Gibbs carrying the ball too. And Swift did a fine job here, but it's different with those two guys. They motion over. If you go back to the beginning of it, John.
Yep.
They motion over. Now, what they're doing when they motion over, they just want to see if Washington's going to adjust. And if you notice, the guy just to the right of the center, Washington's guy, does not slide over at all. And so the Lions on film knew that this would happen and did this because now they have numbers to that play side. So they run that play side. They get the angle they want. They get a great block. It's a good cut from Swift. And they just absolutely manhandled Washington. They averaged 8 yards a carry in this game.
That's nuts.
Yeah, while we're on the topic of Washington, I think the one thing at this point that would kind of solidify the offseason and solidify the Lion fan base would be
Chase
to trade.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I wouldn't be against it. I think he'd be worth, trading maybe a second for and then signing him to a deal he likes for, 2-3 years or whatever.
I've been seeing a second in Julian Okwara. So the worst of the Okwara brothers and a second round pick for a guy who has upside as a top 5 D end in all of football. I mean, his rookie year when he won Rookie of the Year.
Next to Hutch. Yeah.
Yeah. His Rookie of the Year, he was 3rd best D end in all of football as a rookie.
Right.
So if you can keep this guy healthy, which with our rotation, he shouldn't need to be playing 50 snaps a game, he would definitely be worth a second rounder, in my opinion. And I think that, like I said, that's the one thing that would kind of solidify this offseason and say, yeah, we're chips on the table. We're all in on winning right now.
We're waiting for that all-in move. We haven't seen the all-in move yet from Detroit, and
the thing that's bothering me about it, honestly, the thing that's bothering me about it is that we're sitting on like $18-19 million of cap space. Why not take a swing on a guy, right? I mean, another one too, and he's probably going to be a little bit harder to afford, but Quinnen Williams with the Jets right now is unhappy about his contract situation, and I mean, you get an interior pass rush to complement Hutch or Houston, like that's another huge option. So I think biggest thing is just making sure that Aiden Hutchinson isn't getting the double team, the vast majority of the plays like he was last season. Because
speaking of double team, John, on this clip, if you just rewind it just a little bit, watch 68 in this cutoff block. Watch him move from the beginning of the play, and watch how he moves his feet and changes his body angle to make sure. Nuts. Look how he. That's
just totally walled
off.
That.
Look at that. Yeah, I mean, him and 71 wall off that side and allow this cutback.
So good.
Gibbs scores on that play, by the way. Just FYI.
I agree. This one's Penne, right?
Yeah, this is just more of their running scheme. It just shows you this was one of their top run plays. It's this duo wrap. You see the motion kind of comes around.
So
the motion here is just kind of a kick out block. Again, they're going to use this a lot. You see how the Bills adjust to it, and then they pull away from where the motion came.
Kick out block, yeah.
It's just chess, man. I mean, like the Washington clip, the Commanders didn't adjust to the motion, so we ran same side. In this game, if you pause it, watch how the Bills slide everybody over
adjust to the motion, and then they go,
and we go away from it. But it's film study, and it's Ben Johnson being a genius, and it's executing the game plan. And the key to the running game is just being lined up better than the defense and outsmarting them. A lot of the time, it doesn't require the better players to do that. Ben Johnson was great all year last year. It doesn't hurt that we have Penny Sewell and some of these guys, and we had a good running back crew last year. Our tight ends are willing to block. It's a Dan Campbell thing. He was a blocking tight end. He's sure as hell not going to bring in guys that don't want to block. So it works. And you're going to see, I mean, again, watch what they're going to do here. They study the film against Chicago. What do they do to this motion? What do they do to this formation? How do they line up against it? And Ben Johnson dials up so many different ways of running the ball, and everything looks different. Pre-snap, it's going to look like it's a play you've seen before on film, and then it isn't.
So ridiculous.
I think
Penny Sewell, like Joe mentioned. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I was going to say Laporta will even open up more of that running game. He'll help more in play action, which I think we're just going to continue to hammer away, as that's a big thing of our offense. And Laporta, I mean, I think he's going to be a stud. I mean, he was
he's a stud.
As a career receiving yards at Iowa. Like, he's going to be a good player.
He's a stud receiver. There have been questions about his ability to block, but if anyone's going to get a tight end to block, it's Dan Campbell. That's the one thing I know he can coach.
Absolutely.
So he's going to get him ready to go. And not to mention, we have other tight ends that are willing to block, and Laporta could be more of a receiver. You don't see Kelsey block a ton,
Yeah. And I mean, Wright and Mitchell were great blocking.
Great blockers
last year. Yeah.
And they were average receiving tight ends, but they were wide open because of play design. You now add Laporta to that mix. A lot of those, 3rd and 4 completions that ended up being a 10-yard gain will be 20+ yard gains because Laporta has after the catch ability. He's much more like a receiver than he is a true tight end.
And if he's plays to what he should be, like I said, he should be keyed on almost every play on defense if he's a stud. And at that point, it'll open up the run game more.
Right.
And I think, if you guys remember, I think Ben Johnson was trying to make a statement after the Hawkinson trade because he gets traded away and everybody's MFing the Lions, move. I think there's a lot of people that weren't happy about that. And then in the following 2 games, there were like 4 or 5 tight end touchdowns, none of them caught by the same tight end, right?
Yeah.
And I think like that's just a troll move from Johnson where he's like, hey, yeah, we're not going to miss Hawkinson too much. We got it covered. Don't worry about it.
Play design takes care of it, You don't need the best players if you have a great play design. You just need someone who can do what you're asking them to do. And, it helps when you have a guy like Kelsey and you trust that he's going to win one-on-one matchups all game long. But if you don't, you got to be better with your play calling. And Detroit made up for that loss of Hawkinson with great play calling. Now, the one thing I will say in passing game stuff before we show Sewell, big loss, JMO, because you have Amon-Ra and Laporta and Montgomery, and these are all underneath guys, and Gibbs. Those are all underneath guys. You need someone that is going to open up the underneath by threatening you vertically. And the only true guy we have on our roster that can do that, I mean, Khalif Raymond technically can do it. He's fast as shit, but he's not. I mean, he's not a true home run, threat.
I almost feel like they're going to try to use Gibbs in that sense, just to make that threat there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's going to be.
It's just he's not a wide receiver. He's not, him running.
I just don't. I don't think that. I mean. They may use him to try to open it up a little bit, but Gibbs running down the field and throwing him deep balls, he's never really showed that, right? He'll catch it and score on a short catch, but he's never been a true run a 60-yard route, like a true receiver. So
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe he can do it, but
I think to plug the gap that we're currently missing with JMO for those 6 games, I would not be surprised if
it's a big loss
if they put Gibbs out as an actual receiver and had him run a vertical route at least a couple times over those 6 games, just to open something up.
I totally agree. And I also think they're going to attempt to plug it, which he's pretty slow at this point in his career, but Marvin Jones. I mean, when he was here with us, he was our deep ball threat, even though he's only 6'3", but he was our guy. And the real question is, does he have his legs under him still?
Right. That speed is the question for him. I mean, he'll go up and make a play, but in terms of putting the fear in those safeties' eyes and having them really need to respect the deep ball, JMO is one of the best in the NFL at doing that. I mean, he is really that big of a difference maker for us. And there were so many times Amon-Ra had a huge year last year, greatly in part because of that. Like, he was always in favorable matchups because you couldn't commit extra guys to him because of the fear of JMO running by you in the secondary. And JMO wasn't even that effective in terms of statistics because he only had a few catches and I think only 1 touchdown, right? But there's that fear of when he's moving, and you can't give up an easy touchdown like that to him.
I don't think that it was a coincidence that one, Amon-Ra started to pop off a little more, but 2, we started winning more games in the second half of the season once JMO was back. And as you said, Mark, a lot of the time it's not because of the fact he was the one making plays. He was just opening up and letting our offense work a little bit easier.
He was only on the field every once in a while, but when he was, you saw defenses change what they were doing, right? And that's and he hasn't even really done anything yet in the league.
He hasn't done shit yet. I can't wait to see.
But you see a couple of clips of him running, and it's like, oh, shit, we got to be ready for that. If he's on the field, we got to be ready for that.
Yeah, thank God that he healed up from his ACL as well as he did, because that speed's definitely still there. All right, taking a look at Penei.
As Joe said, right, could come out this year and by the end of the year be certified as the best right tackle in football.
I mean, the one thing that I'll say just as an offensive lineman is there are so many times where he is lead blocking, cutting upfield, stuff that you don't really see a lot of tackles doing, but he is so athletic with his size that he can do that. And there are so many times where he's 5-10 yards upfield on a run and he's still blocking the shit out of somebody, and those blocks end up mattering a lot for the play. And you're going to see,
you see right here,
he pulls here,
throwing these guys.
First of all, chips that guy that crashes down, which I think actually mattered for him.
Steals the edge. He has to steal the edge. That's his first.
Yep.
Yeah, first job, steal the edge.
Does that.
Once it's sealed,
kicks the shit out of this guy, and then is looking for somebody else too. I mean, he's always looking for that next guy to go kick the shit out of.
Yeah, no, he is. He's that guy. He is that guy.
I got lost. Oh, is that him right there?
Yeah, just he's good. You know how hard it is to stand out in film as an O lineman, and he does.
He just bullies everybody, dude. It's incredible.
I'm not saying he is Trent Williams, but he does Trent Williams-like things.
Yeah, he does. He really does. And the similarities in their footwork and their upper body strength and athleticism are very similar. I mean, that's a really good player comp. Now, Trent Williams, a lot of people would argue is the best player in the NFL right now, just bar none, period. Best player. Yeah. Like, I mean, you've heard, like, George Kittle was on a podcast last week and said straight up, like, he would put him ahead of Patrick Mahomes in terms of just who's the best at football right now at what they do. Trent Williams. Now that's obviously debatable, but the fact that Penei Sewell is in that conversation being compared to him, and no one, and I know me and John are both, Joe just said that, and neither of us think that that's out of reach, is awesome, because he's still got such a long career ahead of him. I mean, look at this peel back block.
Holy shit, man. He's just so fun to watch.
Slide. No threat outside. Boom.
Just kicks the
and then comes back to the outside and
Yeah.
continues to protect. It's just this relentless effort. There's so many linemen that would have done that one hit and be like, okay, that was good, and then maybe just die off on that play. He was not satisfied. He's working to the next guy constantly.
So you got to
He
give
gets his hands inside.
I mean, that's
really,
him
really
sealing
good.
that
He's
block is the
fundamentally
reason why that was a touchdown.
He's so physically gifted, but he's fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
Like that is, it's just impressive. I mean, here he blocks down and gets the linebacker, springs a touchdown. It's just, it's fun to watch, man. It really is. When you can
Not
just
to mention
kick someone
wide receiver.
Yeah, he does have a huge conversion to clinch a game against Minnesota.
And then the other thing to think about too is obviously, all right, your offensive line's great, your running back core is great, your wide receivers are great, and everybody keeps bringing up the question: is Goff that guy to get it done?
Joe, is Goff the guy?
Goff is the guy that you win with.
Is he the guy you win a Super Bowl with?
Yeah, you could.
You heard it here first.
There's a tier of probably 4, maybe 5 that you win because of, and those are your Mahomes, your Burrows. I don't even know if you're going to put Allen in there. I don't even know if you're going to put Herbert in there. I think after this year, we're going to be putting Trevor Lawrence in that category. And then there's 5 through 15, maybe 5 through 20 that you can win with in today's NFL. Look at what the Niners are doing right now. And then
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, and then look at the bottom 10. They're all just at that point tanking for a new quarterback and trying to lose football games. So yes, to answer your question, yes. And I would even go as far as I would have this offseason, I would have paid him Danny Dimes money, 4 for 160. Because if he has any sort of a good year, we win the North, we win a playoff game, he's going to be coming into Holmes' office and say, yeah, I'll take 50 mil. And I don't, and then that's when you get to the point of, if you're getting 50, you need to be the guy that you win because of, not with.
Yeah, I don't, it's hard. It's hard to say. He's inconsistent at times. He had a rocky start to the season, but when things got rolling and he felt more comfortable in this offense, he like, you can say too, there's time, like, that's an interesting way to put it, that you win with him, right? And not because of him. It's true, but there are times where he does things. It's like, that was flashy. Like, that was special. This throw here in this clip, and one of the better throws all season by any quarterback.
I want to get my 2 cents in before we show this too.
Yeah.
I think his arm talent is actually incredibly underrated. I think he throws a better deep ball than anybody's willing to give him credit for. And his ability to extend plays also, I think, is something that he doesn't get enough credit for. There were multiple times where, obviously he does not have Justin Fields' speed, but last season there were times where he had to slide out of the pocket in order to get a pass off, like we were giving Justin Fields credit for having the ability to do. And I think the combination of that and the fact I think he's a very smart, quarterback. And I know like game manager is more of an insult these days, but he really knows how to operate this offense and work with the weapons that he has. And he's incredibly comfortable with that offensive line. So yeah, taking a look at this
play action, rolling to his left, turns and throws this. Are you kidding me? That is so hard to do.
If Pat Mahomes makes that throw, everybody's like, okay, it's a Pat Mahomes throw. Nobody's expecting Jared Goff to be the one to do it, but he just airs it out 40 yards here. Like,
off his back foot, falling backwards.
Off his back
foot. In a snow shit. I was at this game. In a snow shit, like, not a good environment.
But that's exactly why I think he's a quarterback that you can win with. Like, as long as he takes care of the ball, there's no reason that we cannot win the NFC North this year and multiple playoff games the year after. There's no unless he's coming in throwing pick sixes, fumbling, making.
By the way, that route was dirty.
He should be fine. I mean, we're on pace for the 49ers dog shit quarterback and just crazy good team. And I would argue that Goff is better than whatever they have.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I would not call Goff dog shit. I think he did enough last year to show that he's not. John, let's pull up those stats real quick.
I had him somewhere right here. Cool.
I think it's right here. So this is go ahead. Read these off.
More pass yards than Aaron Rodgers, more pass touchdowns than Tom Brady, fewer interceptions than Patrick Mahomes. I think this one is absolutely huge. Higher pass to TD interception ratio, holy crap, than Josh Allen, and then higher pass rating than Justin Herbert. Right? I mean, and again, yes, this is compliment to his wide receivers, compliment to the offense he's schemed in, compliment to his offensive line, but he still's got to be the guy to do all this stuff. So he's legit, and I genuinely believe that we can win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff, 100%.
So I'm gonna
not because of that's the key.
Second, but the last thing that I'll say while we're looking at this, that bottom one, higher passer rating than Justin Herbert. When are we gonna realize that Justin Herbert isn't Lord and Savior Jesus? I mean, this guy hasn't won anything, and I understand people, Brandon Staley this, Brandon Staley that. He was winning. Justin Herbert was winning by 27 points in a playoff game, and he blew it.
Hey, listen, Justin Herbert is elite, Sven. You're gonna see. I think you're going to see a huge step forward of bringing in Kellen Moore for him because he's a former quarterback. He understands the position. He has a quarterback-friendly offense. Justin Herbert's been asked to do just some weird stuff in his short time with the Chargers, just like throwing a lot on like 4th and 3rd and really short. Like I don't know, just forcing him to do stuff that most quarterbacks won't. I think you'll see more of a traditional first down play call, more play action, allow him to show off the big arm, run the ball more with Eckler and set up. The reality is he's thrown against like past defenses, right? Everyone knows that the Chargers are going to sling the ball around. If they can establish the true running game and stop just hitting checkdowns to Eckler all game, and you put him in like a passing situation like Goff's in, Herbert's going to light it up because that's who can make every throw there ever is.
His arm talent is off the charts, but at a certain point in time, the NFL is a results league, and if you don't get results, you're not going to be playing for too long, which I'm not saying have a short career or anything, but he's not going to be an extremely successful quarterback if he doesn't.
It's funny because I agree with both of you. I think Herbert is an incredible generational talent that's going to be here for a while, and I do not blame the Chargers falling short on him. But I also think it's hilarious how you have these brands with certain NFL teams, right? And I think it's really interesting and kind of funny how these brands remain consistent. And the Chargers brand for 15 years was this tall quarterback with a freaking rocket cannon arm and a really fun to watch offense that never did shit in the playoffs ever, right? And that was obviously Rivers before him. So, and talking about the Bears linebacking and all of those things, like, there's a lot of teams that have these consistent brands, and I think the Chargers, once again, have a really talented quarterback who's a stud with a rocket arm, and the offense is going to be fun to watch, and yet they might struggle to do shit in the playoffs year over year again, right? So I think you're both right.
He's also in the shadow of Mahomes in this division.
Right, which sucks.
Not denying any of that, but...
And he, by the way, in terms of any quarterback besides Burrow, I guess, that's given Mahomes like the most close games, and it's Herbert. Herbert's always in a game against Kansas City. It seems like there's always a shootout at the end of those games.
They haven't won one yet, though, have they?
I think they have. They won in Kansas City 2 years ago.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think I remember that game. Joe, we appreciate you coming on, dunking on the Bears a little bit, talking about some Lions with us, and we hope that the tornado does not come close to you.
Hey, real quick too, Joe. Lock it in. Lions win the North.
Yeah. I'm confident in saying that one. I think it goes Lions, Bears, Green Bay, Vikings. That's my prediction. Those four. I think the Bears take a step forward, but I don't think it's a huge step. I think they probably win 7 or maybe 8. I think Green Bay struggles a lot. I think Minnesota struggles a lot. And I think the Lions win the North, but I don't see us going out and winning 13 games or anything. I could see 10 games winning this division next year. I mean, on paper, our talent is great. I love where we're at. Our schedule looks right now pretty favorable, but at the end of the day, they got to prove that they can win a lot of games and win a lot of games quickly.
You heard it here.
Heard it here, and I agree
Season
with a lot
ticket
of the
holder,
takes.
longtime Lions fan. He was a believer when no one else believed. Mr. Joe Svengros.
Yeah, I'm going out to LA to see Goff beat Herbert this year, so maybe we can get some good content out there.
Let's go. That sounds like that's going to be a blast too.
It's a tough matchup, but
Yeah. It's going to be a sweet game.
Hey, hope you enjoy it, and thanks again for coming on, Joe. I don't know if we've had any. Oh, besides Cabby, I think you're only our second or third repeat guest, and the only one that's been the only guest. We've had just groups of a bunch of hooligans on for mock drafts and stuff like that. So we appreciate you coming on, bud.
Hey, always, boys. Appreciate you having me. Go Leos.
Let's go.
All right.
Go Leos.
Wait,
Yeah.
I just thought he was going to say Lions. I heard the L and instinctively said, let's go. But
yeah, he's an interesting fellow, that's for sure. But he's a diehard Lions fan.
What's Leo's?
All right, dude. Your guess is as good as mine. That kid's got some of the weirdest things.
All right, I thought there was an inside joke here. And maybe there is, and you're just embarrassed.
Maybe there is. Maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know. Leo equals lion. That's what Drew said. I don't know where that stems from, but hey, go Leos.
Go Leos, I guess. That's I've been a lifelong Lions fan. I'm not sure if I've ever heard that one.
Problem with the Detroit Lions is as soon as we give them all this credit, and I think we all three of us think they'll probably win the North. The very next clip that we'll pull up here as we switch into the Minnesota Vikings is Justin Jefferson
just torching the shit
dropping
out of our
his balls
secondary
on our forehead. Yeah. This is he gets bracket coverage here, right? So he gets jammed. Good luck. He gets right off the jam. Makes a play on the ball here, breaks a tackle. By the way, he stayed in bounds. You can watch his replay all you want. They call him out of bounds in this game, but he never stepped out of bounds. You'll see it from this angle.
He's Calvin Johnson, man. Like, he is so freaking good. It is ridiculous how good he is.
The release is smooth. He's covered, but he makes the play. And, I mean, after the catch, during the routes, releases, it's unbelievable. Watch from this angle, you'll see he does not step out of bounds. Now, this did not get overturned in the game. But it's just incredible to watch him play. And we're several clips of he's the best in the NFL. And I don't think you can argue it right now.
I seriously think he's wide receiver one in the NFL. And maybe
catches like this. 4th and 18 against the Bills, probably the play of the year. Catch of the year.
This was the catch of the year for sure. I mean, holy shit. Honestly, I feel like Odell's catch was 10 times more famous than this catch, and I think this was a better, harder catch to make than Odell's catch. Because not only did he have to extend as much as he did to make that, he has a guy actually on him, covering him on his body for this catch, and he still makes it. It's ridiculous.
Plus the stakes, 4th and 18. You lose the game if you don't get this.
No discredit to Odell, obviously, but like this defender gets a hand on it and he still brings it in. It's ridiculous.
I mean, look at his team. His team's like, holy shit, you know.
Let's see if there's another. Yeah, I mean,
it's unbelievable.
It's just ridiculous, man. And like, look, I get the guys that like college more than the NFL. I don't know too many college ball players that can do anything even close to that, and that's why we watch the NFL, is because it is truly the best of the best of the best at what they do, making plays like this. And
crazy thing is, John, is he's so damn young. He's so damn young still.
Was this year 4 for him?
This is, dude. I think he's not even 25 years old. Like he was doing this at LSU, and like he just translated right into the NFL. He didn't skip a beat. Now this is one of my favorite routes I saw. So you see so many guys run.
Oh my God, the footwork.
Yeah, that you see so many guys call this a screw route, right, where he goes out and then back in. And so Gilmore's seen it on film 100 times. Jefferson's beat a bunch of guys on that for touchdowns. So the Vikings call this is like a screw or snag jerk. which is everything looks like it's going to be that screw out. He looks like he's going to come back in, and then it's all about deception, and he is king of deception. Him, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, kings of deception. They're true artists at this craft. Again, former receiver. This is the kind of shit that I would spend years trying to master. And people don't realize how they make it look so easy, but getting in and out of your breaks like this, the little details of selling it with your eyes and your head, making it look like he's going in. If you put this clip in slow-mo, John, and you pause it before he breaks out, if you've never seen this play before, you do not expect him to do what he's about to do, right? It looks like he's running a slant. DB thinks it. Everyone who's watching the game thinks it. Everyone on the defense thinks it. Everyone in the crowd thinks it. He's not.
It's
right,
just
and that's why he gets so wide open and wide. I mean, what they do down here in the red zone with him, if you try to play him one-on-one, good luck.
Yep. And so, I mean, you know, the Vikings are this, just to like talk scheme a little bit and kind of where the Vikings might be headed this year. Like, I think that defense is still a huge question mark. I think that the Flores hire was huge for them, and I think he's going to bring some stability there where maybe they're not the worst defensive backfield in all of the NFL. There's still a lot of problem areas there, and I think that is highly contingent on whether or not the Vikings are, you know, second in the division versus being fourth in the division, is whether or not their defense can get a little bit more stable. Because I'll say this much, is they're not getting nearly as lucky as they were last year. That's just that kind of stuff was a fluke. Yeah. It doesn't happen. Exactly.
No, you're totally right. Their defense it's amazing that they won as many games as they did last year with that defense and the issues it had. But obviously it showed itself at the worst possible time, home playoff game against a Giants team that, to be honest, had questions. And, you know, they should not have lost that game, and they did, right? Defense couldn't.
I mean, shit, they looked incredibly fraudulent against the Eagles, obviously, the following week. So,
right.
You know, the fraud beat the fraud, but they're still fraudulent too. But one move I do think that the Vikings made that I do like is getting Justin Jefferson some help because of the fact
they lost Thielen, right?
Yep.
Lost Thielen. They got to have. Now, here's the thing, too. Jordan Addison on the opposite side of Justin Jefferson. By the way, this is that snag route I was talking about, right? Very similar to the routes you've seen Justin Jefferson just do, right? You see the patience at the line of scrimmage. By the way, this is on a pretty good defender, too. Sell the slant. Eyes looking in, ready for the slant, and then the quickness to get out of it. What Jordan Addison's going to see a ton of is favorable one-on-one coverages because you can't double Anderson. It's a lot like Jefferson when he first came in the league. Thielen at the time was wide receiver 1 in Minnesota, right? No doubt about it, right? Diggs had just left, and Jefferson comes in and he's getting one-on-one matchups. And what did he do with it? He simply just became the highest targeted, best receiver in football, best receiving yards, best touchdowns, best completion percentage when throwing to him. So Jordan Addison's coming into a very favorable situation for himself with a quarterback that knows how to help his receivers and work on the chemistry. And you can see the clips where they speak for themselves of what this guy brings to the table. Any guy in college football that does this at 2 different schools, he did it at Pitt the year before, won the Blitnikoff Award, best receiver in college football, goes to USC, and in his first year at USC, puts up ridiculous numbers and puts up film like this. I mean, this is just an absolute dirty double move on a safety. He turns him inside out.
Oh, my gosh.
That's the kind of stuff, though, that they're going to get out of him, and defenses can't prepare for it because they got to focus on JJ. So it's like, what do you do, right? It's going to be really hard for teams that struggle in the secondary in this division, and that's what I think could keep the Vikings atop the division, right, or at least competing for it, is the fact that they have Kirk Cousins throwing to those guys. Now, look at this. Kirk Cousins, and, you know, by the way, he's featured in the quarterback show that's on Netflix. We'll talk about it at the end of this episode.
I'm excited about that.
He is one of those guys where it's like he's so similar statistically, honestly, in how his career's gone to like Matt Stafford to me, where shows so many great things, but
right.
he doesn't win, right? He might get you one really good regular season, but he chokes in the playoffs, right? He's got one playoff win, I think, in his career. I don't know.
Play this man at 1 o'clock. That's all we're
play at
trying
1
to say.
o'clock, that's for sure. But I mean, look at the stat, right? I mean, he's the only quarterback, right, in the last 8 seasons to throw for 4,000 yards and 25 plus touchdowns. Only one in the last 8 seasons to do that all 8 years.
It's crazy. It's not as easy to mess with his name as Stat Padford though, so it's unfortunate. Because yeah,
and then obviously the Vikings losing Dalvin Cook is a big deal too. Obviously, that's one of the downfalls. I don't know what, like I said, how do you replace a guy like that? Kind of hard to, but play calling, right? Play calling is going to have to be better. They're going to have to be creative in how they get in positive running situations. And I do anticipate them throwing the shit out of the ball because they have weapons to do it with, and they have a quarterback that wants to sling it, and they have a play caller who's a former quarterback. So I do anticipate them slinging it all over the field like they did last year. And listen, they won 13 games in the regular season because of it. They're never out of a game. We saw them have the best comeback in NFL history last year, slinging the ball, right? So they're never out of a game. But I also don't know if you can win the division, especially a division that has good running game, good running football, by throwing it, as much as they do. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's one of those teams where I really don't know what to make of it. And honestly, we're going to get to Green Bay here, and unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of film to talk about Green Bay with. And it's because other than defensively, like, who is returning on offense, right? I mean, they're keeping their running
backs.
Yeah. But it is a very fresh, new-looking Green Bay team, one that has a lot of characters that we have not seen. And so really all we do have to show about Green Bay is, is Jordan Love going to be able to fill Aaron Rodgers' shoes even a little bit, 70-80% of what Aaron Rodgers was able to do for this team? And also, LaFleur has had the privilege of being able to coach one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history the entire time he's been there. What is it like when that's not the guy at quarterback and all of a sudden you have to get a little bit more creative offensively to maybe open things up? And they got weapons and they've made good investments. So I'm not going as far to say that they don't. I think a lot of people say their roster just straight up sucks. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think there's a shit ton of question marks. Now, what I remember this play very clearly, and I remember a couple plays that he made this game. Jordan Love, from the one start that he got, in year 2 or whatever, because Aaron Rodgers was hurt, he looked really rough. This game where he came in for Aaron Rodgers, I think for 2 quarters, something like that. It was like roughly half the game. He was
in a game, by the way, where Philly rushed for like 350 yards.
Yes, he was showing a lot more promise, I think, and definitely had clearly developed from year 2 to year 3. So,
yeah, so Philly here is playing a cover 2 look, right? So the soft spots in cover 2, as we went over in our coverage episode about a month ago, is going to be that outside of the corner, and then you have to obviously place enough touch on the pass to get there before the safety gets there, right? There's that soft spot right there. And this is an absolutely perfectly thrown football. Back shoulders it again, similar to Justin Fields' throw that we showed on film, where if he does get hit, he's going to get hit in the back and not in the face, right? And this is Aaron Jones, a running back, by the way, that they're asking to do this, which is tough for running backs. But if there's any guy in the league that can do it as a running back, he's one of them. This is a perfectly thrown football, and he recognizes the coverage, throws it on time, and puts it in the perfect spot, and the guy just doesn't make the play. But like John said, this is the film that will show. There's plenty of bad film we could show you of Jordan Love. But again, a lot of new faces. I mean, Christian Watson had a big season last year. How will he do with the new quarterback? They drafted Jaden Reed out of Michigan State, who I love that pick. He'll be really good in the slot for them. They're going to lean on their running backs. I mean, you got Lou Nichols, who we had on a couple months ago as a guest. They're going to lean on their running backs. If they can't run the ball successfully, they're going to struggle.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I know we're kind of keeping it short and sweet.
Delivered candy live.
That's awesome. Honestly, yeah. I could use some candy right now.
Little Mike and Ike's live delivery.
Let's go. What family member delivered it?
Twan, as he was yelling at somebody, like he's just arguing. I don't know if you guys could hear that as I was doing my spiel on the running game, but yeah, I was gonna yell at him when he walked in here, and then he dropped off Mike and Ike.
Tell him to lay off on the juice, man. I know his physique looks great lately, but that roid rage will get to you. So
you can text him that, dude. I'm sure he'll have some kind of
I'm not trying to stir the pot too much here between the trio brothers.
Back.
It's already volatile enough between the three of you. All right, so look, same thing as last time, except now we got an awesome graphic that Drew whipped up. So Bears, I'm gonna say under 7.5, but I think they're gonna be right there. I think like 7 wins sounds about right for them. Pack, do you want to go back and forth, or do you want me to run through all of them?
We'll go back and forth. I agree with you, though. I think it's 7. I think it's 7 or 8 wins for the Bears, which I get. That's where they're over under is. So I'll go under.
Yeah. Packers, I'm going to say over. I think they're going to surprise some people and probably be closer to like an 8-9 win team. I think they actually have a higher shot than not to finish second in the division. So
weirdly enough, like I don't like completely disagree with you, but I think I'm going to go under. I haven't seen enough out of Jordan Love, and the importance of the quarterback position is just too big, man. And not only that, man, they lost Lazard and they lost it's just a different feel in Green Bay right now.
It's a different team.
I think the Lions killed them. I really do. I think they killed them and they put them down for at least a few years.
Yeah, so we'll see. Look, I've seen this before, right? There's a guy named Brett Favre that was leaving the team and everybody acted like it was Lions' time to shine, and it wasn't. So that's what I'm worried about. Again, how history kind of repeats itself with these NFL teams. I'm cognizant of the fact that I don't want to go and say the Packers are dead. I've been abused by this team for my entire life. I'm not ready to just go and say it was that easy now Kirby Joseph is definitely Aaron Rodgers' father. Don't get me wrong. That's been established. We kicked him out of Green Bay. I'm not sure Green Bay itself is dead. So, and that's why I kind of have them going over. Now, if we're moving on to the Vikings, I think the most fraudulent team in the NFL last year. Well, there's a lot of things they did to get better this year. I think that they're maybe an 8-win team if they're lucky. So I'm going to put them under.
So you can say fraudulent all you want, and they were
fraudulent,
but they won 13 damn games. And listen,
5 of them
you don't win 13 games by accident. I don't care who you are, what your team is, what the situation is.
You do if you get smoked in the first round of the playoffs by another not very good team.
They won 13 damn games. They are returning a lot of those guys. They got a better defensive play caller. They got rid of Thielen, brought in a younger receiver. I think it actually works out better for them. Kirk Cousins in year 2 with the system, I think will take another step forward. And if they're able to find any sort of running game, the Vikings will definitely finish second or first in this division, I think. I think they have enough weapons around them. Their defense will be better. They won the division handedly and won 13 games with one of the worst secondaries in football. That's hard to do, man. That is hard to do. They knew how to win games last year. They're going to know how to win games this year.
I'll give them credit where
I'm not saying they're winning 13.
Yeah, I'll give them credit where it's due. But they're to me all season, they had 20 and they were still hitting, and somehow they got an ace and they got 21. That's what I felt like I was watching the Vikings somehow do over and over and over again last season. I just don't think they're going to be that lucky this season.
So sometimes you create your luck, John, and I think a lot of times it happened often enough where I don't know if you could call it luck.
All right. Would you consider the Lions one of the unluckiest teams of all time? Because
absolutely, but they also were cursed. So
they're not cursed anymore. We're not. Peyton Manning lifted the curse.
We will see.
Peyton Manning lifted the curse.
True. We'll see if that comes true. There's listen. Every time we give all this credit to the Lions, it scares the shit out of me because we are setting up for the biggest heartbreak.
I get it. I have PTSD too. I get it.
With 9.5 is a fair number, though. It's a fair number.
I'm going over it.
Yeah,
I am putting them over it. Yep. I think.
Listen, honestly, I learned my lesson, John.
I think they're a 12-win team next year. I think 12, maybe 13. That's kind of where I put them. I truly think we can go undefeated at home. So right there, that's 8 or 9 wins. I don't know which one we have more of this year. But
I put them at 11. I put them at 11 or 12 wins. I put them at winning the division, and I put them at winning. I'll give them one playoff game. I think.
I like it.
That's where I'm at. The thing is, though, John, if they do win 13 games, they could be maybe the top seed in the NFC.
And then
the Eagles' schedule's tougher than ours. The Niners' schedule is tougher than ours, and I think those are the two main threats, right? That I guess you could say the Seahawks, but their schedule's tougher than ours.
Man, I don't want to think about that because the Lions winning the NFC regular season, I mean, obviously becoming the 1 seed for the NFC. I don't know. I didn't expect that to see that in my lifetime, honestly. So I don't want to get too excited about it.
What is your, John, what is your 1 through 4 of this division?
My 1 through 4 are Lions, Packers, Vikings, Bears, most likely. That's kind of where I put it. So, but the thing is, I think it's going to be the Packers, Vikings, Bears, I think are going to be very tight in their win totals. I'm talking like 7 to 9 wins for all three of them are going to be like right there bunched together. And I think the Lions are going to break ahead by a couple, right? So that's kind of how I see this playing out. Because I don't think any of those three teams are objectively shitty, but I also don't think those three teams are objectively good. I think they have a lot of problem areas, and so they're all going to flirt with 500, and that's where they're going to end up.
I'm going to go with Lions, and I don't think it'll be very close. I think they'll win it by a couple games. I'm going to go with the Vikings, second in the division. I'm going to go with the Bears, third, and I'm going to go with the Packers, fourth in the division. Which is crazy.
It's a respectable back too. Don't get me wrong. So look, to wrap up the NFC conversation, and then we'll kind of, stop the screen share and talk about some of the new and noteworthy stuff going on. Because there actually is some NFL news for once, or football news in general, as we were a week away from training camp. The Lions, 4 jerseys, right? They got their icy whites, got their home jerseys, got their, alternate whites. And then they have their grays, but, so I don't know who took this picture. Somebody noticed walking into the office today that those grays were not sitting on that stand. Are we thinking way too far into it that the blacks might be coming back? Yes. The idea that when they're supposed to debut their alternate helmets, they come out in the blacks instead of the grays, I would cry. This is like maybe one of the biggest reaches you've ever had, and I know it's because you want it so bad. I want it so bad,
but this is crazy talk. It's just a simple uniform
Why
swap. Maybe the mannequin was getting fixed, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, what? Did somebody tackle the mannequin?
Maybe someone vandalized it. I don't know, but there's no way in hell that this isn't just a coincidence. If you're right and you're in this, and we go back and we'll clip this, and if you are right, we will clip this and be like, hey, John called it. But I'm calling it right now that this is just a simple reach, and that they're probably just cleaning the uniform or maybe switching up the socks or the cleats on it. I don't know.
Hey, man, AC/DC. Back in black. That's what I want to see.
I would love to see that too. I agree with you. But to say that that's what's going to happen, or that you think that this is why there's a mannequin missing, maybe there's a mannequin thief on the loose in Detroit. I don't know.
Can you just let me have something for once?
There's some sick freaks out there that would take a mannequin and do dirty things to it.
Look, man, all I'm trying to say is that you've made some mistakes about doubting my Lions takes in the past. And this might be the greatest reach of all of them.
Yeah.
Saying that we're going to bring back our uniforms, but also can't think of a better surprise than that. So that's what I'm hoping happens.
It would be great. It would be great. Let's get into like actual good news. Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks.
Hey, we got what we wanted of the 3 teams that, maybe not you. I know you want to see the Saints a little bit, but
no, I'm totally cool with the Jets. I think that it's going to be incredibly interesting. I'm curious to see how Aaron Rodgers reacts to not only New York media all over him, but also now he has NFL cameras all over him. And not only that, but he can't hide from those under any circumstances. And we are going to see more Aaron Rodgers in a team practice setting than we ever have before. It's going to be really interesting. I'm personally very excited for it. Also,
here's what
lighting sucks for me right now. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Here's what I think is going to happen. All right. He came to New York because he wants to be, most of his career, anti-spotlight, anti-media, anti-being selfish. Like, he just was out of it, right? Towards the end of these last few years, he's been all about poking fun at the media, giving them enough fuel to be headlines, right? Goes to New York, of all places. Like, I think he's going to Knicks games, sitting courtside. He wants the spotlight, right? He wants his flowers. he's getting them with Hard Knocks. He's going to get all cameras on him, like you said.
We're gonna. He was celebrating when this news broke. Like, you think he was like, "All right, let's go."
For sure, he was happy about this, right? And here's the thing: I think America is either going to fall in love with Aaron Rodgers during this Hard Knocks thing, or we're going to hate him, because I think you're going to see how he interacts with his team. And I personally think people are going to realize that he's not as bad as people are making him out to be as a teammate and as a person. But I think we're going to enjoy it. With all the storylines and Hard Knocks, I mean, you have Sauce Gardner, who loves the camera, loves himself, loves to just be the center of attention, right? You have Conklin, former guest. You know, he's a character with CJ Uzomah and all these other guys that they have. I mean, that clearly have fun. We talked about when we had him on as a guest. They have fun playing. Breece Hall coming back from injury. You have Garrett Wilson, you know, Alan Lazard.
It's a fun cast, man.
It's a fun cast. You have a coach that I think is more kind of reserved and conservative in how he does
very
things.
Likable.
But very likable. And we're going to see how he carries himself and how that works, right? Because he's a different character than Dan Campbell was. He's not going to have as many one-liners as Campbell had, but he's a strong, smart coach, and we're going to see, you know, what he's about. You're going to have the Zach Wilson, right? How he interacts with Aaron Rodgers. Like, there's a lot of cool storylines that this Jets team has.
I'm very excited for it.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm happy that's who they rolled with, and obviously the Jets organization, they probably fought him on it, but hey, man, I'm stoked that it's happening. The other thing to talk about in reference to docu-series football stuff is Netflix's new quarterback series. And so, Mark, it sounds like has seen a couple episodes already. I haven't yet. I'm going to watch them with Hannah tonight. But what's your first takeaway from it, Mark? Like, do you feel like it's something that is new and, you know, refreshing? And how do they kind of manage, you know, Mahomes, top tier quarterback versus Cousins, kind of mid tier quarterback versus Mariota, who's, you know, kind of fighting for his life to even stay in the league right now?
Dude, it's actually really, really well done so far from what I've seen. They really gave them full access. We're talking, you know, their personal lives, their home lives, training room lives. I mean, there's footage of Kirk Cousins talking to their team psychologist, and you get to kind of hear what he's breaking down and how he's feeling and stuff. Like, it's full in, right? So you see that, and it's cool, and it has that Hard Knocks feel to it, but it's specific just to three players that we all recognize, right? And like you said, it is top tier, middle tier, and bottom tier quarterbacks. I actually kind of like it that way because you can kind of see the difference of their lifestyles. Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl champion, league MVP. You see how he interacts, how he leads, how he plays, how he talks during the games, because they're mic'd up and stuff. Then Kirk Cousins, right? Much more humble, right? The media portrays him differently. You kind of see how he actually is with his team, the leadership that he has. And then you have Mariota, who obviously struggled, but you can kind of see what each of those three guys did in the going into the season. And I only saw through like the first quarter of the season. But they kind of show in each episode, like the first three games for Kansas City, it kind of talks about Mahomes. Then it switches to the first three games with Kirk, then the first three with Mariota, and how for each player. Then kind of week 4, week 5, back up to Mahomes, back to Kirk, back, you know. So it's really cool how they do it, and it's basically Hard Knocks specific to just 3 really recognizable players that we all have watched for several years. And it's really well done. I think you're going to like it. I think it's here to stay. I think you might see bigger names. I can't believe they got Mahomes on it, someone as big as Mahomes on it. But
it'd be fun if they did it, you know, with maybe even different positions too, right?
That too, yeah.
I'd be interested to see that as well.
I think like Peyton Manning's an executive producer, so he's in it.
Oh yeah, it's an Omaha production, I believe, which is so very cool.
Like, you know, it's got like he's talking about the quarterback position, why it's the hardest in sports, and it just awesome footage. You know, stuff that, you know, most people haven't seen before, and it's awesome. If you didn't play big time football, college or pro football, and you're a fan, it's a must watch because you see inside of like what it's like, you know. And if it's
enjoyable for somebody that maybe isn't even like, you know, huge into football or like,
I think so, dude. I think so. I think like that. I anytime like Hard Knocks was airing and I was with people that aren't even football fans, I would try to have them watch it because I'm like, you guys will understand. Like if I'm with a bunch of girls, they're like, oh, we don't care about football. I'll be like, just watch like an episode of Hard Knocks and tell me this isn't interesting to you. Like it shows these are people. Like they're funny. They do funny shit. The coaches are crazy. like what their life is very interesting, and there's a reason football is king in America. Like, it's not just because the sport itself is cool. Like, there's so many other things. Like, it's a beautiful game. The relationships, between teammates and coaches and fans, it's super cool to see. And this docuseries Quarterback is awesome. I'm gonna watch more of it tonight. I know you're gonna start it. Yep. It's awesome, dude. I really do like it.
I'm excited. And then the last topic that we want to hit before wrapping up tonight is Northwestern's coach, Pat Fitzgerald, getting let go on what I understand as being complicit in hazing. But frankly, I don't know anything more detail-wise besides that. I don't know, Mark, if you kind of want to explain what the allegations are as to why he was let go or anything like that, if you have any more detail around it than I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's all speculation and stuff, and unfortunately in today's world, like, you can lose everything you've ever worked for over speculation. I don't know how much proof they have of any of it happening. And again, this sets a bad precedent, because if it isn't as extreme or it isn't true at all, this is really, really bad, because he is Northwestern, played there, legend as a player. He's coached there for a very long time. He gets more out of that program's not great, right? And he gets more out of those guys than anyone else would. But the allegations essentially are, sexual harassment in the locker room. So, forcing guys to touch each other or walk past each other. It's like kind of like a introduction into the locker room. There's like younger freshmen that maybe make walk between a couple bigger linemen that are older. Just weird stuff like that in the showers, and I don't know, just like locker room shit that obviously went too far. And I think it was a couple former players that didn't really like what happens in their time at Northwestern that came out and basically said this was happening. And then a couple other players piled on, right, when it's going south, when it rains, it pours. A couple other players piled on from like 07, 08 that said that there was racist allegations that had happened in their time there. So, I mean, you see blood in the water, you go for the kill. And that's kind of what happened, unfortunately, Pat Fitzgerald. And again, if all of the allegations are true, absolutely deserves to be fired. But I don't know of any proof. I haven't seen any proof. And the fact that you can lose everything you worked for over an allegation, I hope they had proof to fire him, If
yeah,
not,
I think with him being a staple, and the thing is like that shit, I think, especially, the more we've matured as a society, especially when it comes to how college coaches or football, managers or anything have interacted with not only players, but have used, unfortunately, the sport of football to do a lot of shitty things. Looking at Penn State in this particular example, right? Like, you got to take that shit seriously. And if the allegations were greater than one, right, I think that Northwestern probably was pretty thorough in their review of the entire situation and probably tried to get down to the bottom of it very quick. So
now there was an assistant coach that came out a couple of days ago that said none of this is true. None. Sure. Like, and I don't like, it's too late. He's gone. He's fired. Right. But again, like, if you can't prove that it did happen, I wouldn't fire him unless I know it happened. Right. Right. It's tough, right? And the question becomes, is anybody untouchable in college football as a coach? I mean, if this happened at Alabama, would Nick Saban be fired? Yeah. Would Dabo Swinney be fired? Like, some of these guys are legends. Right. And you're never going to find a better coach than Nick Saban at Alabama. So, like, where is Pat Fitzgerald was one of the most untouchable coaches. He was never going to get fired. He had a lifetime deal with Northwestern, barring anything like this. He was never going to get fired for having bad seasons. He's had plenty of bad seasons there.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I think, like, there has to be something at least somewhat concrete for this to happen, especially, and again, like, it might not even be that he was directly involved. He could just be complicit in the sense that he was aware it was going on and didn't do shit about it. And in this day and age, if you're the figurehead for an organization, that's the type of stuff you have to respond to. And I mean, you see that all over the place, not just in football per se, but like in business, right? You get, CEOs where people are committing fraud or sexual harassment on a regular basis, and they know about it and they walk just because they know about it, not because they did anything. So, if you're the leader of an organization, you're a figurehead of an organization, like, you got to make sure that you're running shit tip top, right? And so,
do you want to hear what some of the specific things they were doing were? I mean, they're not
honestly, I'd rather not, frankly. Like, I don't think it's worth getting into on the show and all that, but that's just my 2 cents on it. So
out there, if anyone wants to hear it, again, none of it. I don't know if it's true or not, but you can do quick search and you can see what they're being accused of.
Sure.
It's just silly, like just stupid stuff. But if it happened, it's absolutely worthy of being fired, and it's no place for that in any college locker room. And you know, you want a safe environment when you go to college to play college football, right? Like you don't want to walk into any hazing situation is just terrible. So
honestly, we probably should have saved this for the beginning of the episode or the first off news topic, because now I feel like we just crushed it with this episode. Had a lot of fun stuff.
Dude, I mean,
it's like, oh, this guy got fired for doing a bunch of shitty shit in football. But anyways,
hey, bad things happen in the media and in sports too. We're not going to just pick and choose all the good stuff. Right?
It is our job to talk about shit, even if it's shitty shit. So
it happened. Yeah. It's news. It has to be talked about. But yeah, this episode's got a lot of light stuff as well.
Definitely.
I want to hear what people think too. I mean, on the NFC North, right? Like this is one of those divisions where everyone's got their opinion. No one really knows what's going to happen. This is the first time in, I think, our lifetime Lions are favored to win the division going into a season.
Hey, let's go Leos, right?
Go Leos, as Sven said, repping Detroit. I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what happens.
Who you want to cover next week? I don't think we've even talked about it. So, you know, right on air right now.
I would say, why the hell would we not do the Jets, Dolphins, Bills, and
I was literally going to say AFC East. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. So we will see you guys next week as we get in the shed, start doing our film research for the AFC East. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We will see you guys next week. Peace.
Love you guys.